Hope everyone is having a pretty good Friday morning. My name is Steve Ramirez, and welcome to my inner circle. And today I thought I would look at the baseball playoff, which began at 9 a.m. this morning. With got 4 wild card round games, best of 3 series, all played in the city of the higher seeded team. And they run through possibly Sunday. Who knows? They could all be over by Saturday, but we'll see how that goes. The Dodgers will play the winner of the Padres Mets series on Tuesday, opening at Dodger Stadium. Let's look at the American League first. We have the 3 versus 6 matchup, Tampa Bay versus the Cleveland Guardians. Remember, they're the Guardians now. That's an interesting series. I thought Tampa Bay would be better this year. I thought they had a shot at finishing second in the AL East, but they just fell a little behind the 8 ball. But they were able to secure the 6th seed and hold off the Baltimore Orioles, who really had a really good year. Got to give props to the Orioles for, they've been kind of a laughingstock the last decade or so, it seems. And for them to make a push to make the playoffs, that's a team you're going to have to look out for in the coming years, I think. But back to this year's playoffs, I'm going to pick the Guardians. I think they have the pitching. That's been their strength all year. Tampa Bay has good pitching too, but I think the Guardians are the team that's going to win that series. And then they will take on the New York Yankees, and we know how Cleveland has not fared well against the Yankees over the years. The other wild card series is the 4 and 5. Toronto Blue Jays at 4, Seattle Mariners at 5. First time in the playoffs for Seattle since, I believe, 2001. So that's an accomplishment for them. I'm going to go with the Mariners on this one. I like their number 1 starter, Luis Castillo, and they also have Robbie Ray. I think they just have better pitching. I think the Blue Jays might have the better lineup, but in these type of series, unless the pitching gap is small, you got to go with the pitching over the better lineup. And I think the Mariners lineup is pretty good, so their pitching advantage, I think, is going to come through in that. And winner of that will play the Houston Astros, who are the number 1 seed. The Yankees are the number 2 seed. In the National League, we have the 3 and 6 series, and the Philadelphia Phillies at the St. Louis Cardinals. The Phillies kind of struggled down the stretch here, barely holding off the Milwaukee Brewers, who were also kind of struggling down the stretch. So the Phillies basically got there by default after playing well through most of the summer, at least enough to be in the wild card race, and they were able to secure a spot, but they're not bringing a lot of momentum into this series. And the Cardinals have played really well since, I would say, June, maybe from the middle of May on, but they've really been one of the better teams in baseball since June, and they seem to have the pitching advantage here, and so I just think they're the better team overall, and I see them advancing to play the Braves next week in the divisional series. I think the best matchup of the weekend is the Padres, the number 5 seed, at the Mets, the number 4 seed. The Mets are really probably the 3rd best team in the National League. Maybe the fourth best team in baseball. But this is going to be a tough series for them because both teams have really good starting pitching. The lineups are pretty fair across the board. I think where the Mets have an advantage is at the back end of the bullpen, where they have one of the top closers in baseball this year, if not the top closer. And the Mets are trying something different here. The rumor is that they are not going to start. The plan is not to use Jacob deGrom in this series. They're they're thinking ahead to the division series, where if they went with deGrom and Max Scherzer in games 1 and 2 and they won those 2 games, those 2 guys would not be available until games 2 and 3 on regular rest, and would only be used once. In a 5-game series, you're only going to use one pitcher twice, and so if they because of rest weren't going to be available until games 2 and 3, like if deGrom was to pitch game 1 in the wild card series, he wouldn't be available until game 2 of the divisional series. And what they're going to try to do is, it looks like, is try to win the series without deGrom. That way he's able to go in game 1. Scherzer is scheduled to pitch game 1 tomorrow in the wild card against the Padres. And then would be, if they won, would be available on regular rest to pitch game 2. Bassett, if he pitched game 2 in the wild card, would be on regular rest to pitch game 3, and then you could probably come back with Walker on game 4, depending on how that series goes. If they get that far, we're kind of looking ahead here, but what the Mets are doing, I've seen college programs do this in Division I regionals, where they're like a top 4 seed, national seed, and so they're playing the 65 to 68, depending on what national seed they are. They're playing a team basically they feel they can beat with their bats, so they'll pitch like a weekend starter on that first game, knowing that the second game of the regional is going to be the tougher game, and so that's where they want their number 1 starter to pitch. You do that if you're a top seed, like a top 4 seed, because you feel your offense is good enough to win. But if you're not, you're kind of taking a gamble, and most coaches, if they're going against a team that is talented enough, they're not going to trust that. And so the fact that the Padres starting pitching is very close to the Mets in talent, it could be kind of a big gamble, I think. I think if they were playing like the Phillies, who are not close in talent to the Mets, at least the way they played throughout the year, then you might take that gamble. But it's going to be a really big gamble against the Padres, and I think the plan is to see what happens in game 1. If they lose game 1, then they will pitch deGrom in game 2, and then he's not available until game 3 of the divisional series, if they get that far. Excuse me. And then, so the plan is to have Max Scherzer pitch game 1 and Bassett pitch game 2, and if they win game 1, and then hopefully win it in 2, and then have deGrom in case it goes to a game 3, then that what that does, You might be able to save LeGrom for Game 4 in a divisional series, depending on how that series is going. You also would kind of have him maybe saved for a winner all Game 5, but that's looking so far ahead. I'm just not sure of this plan. I think you just got to go with your top 2 pitchers and maybe pitch one of them on short rest in the next series if you win. You have to go with your best, though. This series is too close. Like I said, the pitching, the Mets' top 2 starters, Scherzer and DeGrom, might be the best 2 starters in baseball combined. But the Padres with Darvish, Musgrove, and Schnell, they're pretty close. And the lineups are very similar. The Mets might have a little deeper lineup, but not by much. It's not like the Dodger lineup, which is deep all the way down to 8 or 9, and maybe even the 9. I just think it's too big of a gamble. You got to go with your top 2 starters in this series, and we'll see how it plays out. I'm picking the Mets to win here. Like I said, I think they just have a little bit more. They're just a little slightly better talent-wise than the Padres. And then as we go into the divisional series, like I said, I picked the Guardians, and I see them losing to the Yankees the next round, and then the Mariners I have over the Blue Jays, and then I see them losing to the Astros. And the Astros have better pitching right now than the Yankees. Basically, Aaron Judge has kind of carried the Yankees through this stretch for most of the season here. And I think their lack of starting pitching is going to be shown when they play the Astros. So I have the Astros going to the World Series. In the divisional round in the National League, I have the Cardinals against the Braves, and I can see the Braves winning that pretty easily. They're much better than the Cardinals. The best series, I think, of the divisional round would be the Mets and Dodgers. The Dodgers have clearly the better lineup, but you throw DeGrom and Scherzer, even if they're pitching the second and third game of that series, it's going to put a lot of pressure on the Dodger lineup. And if they're pitching games 2 and 3, and the Dodgers will probably go with Julio Urias in Game 1. Even if they go with Kershaw, that's an advantage against Walker of the Mets. And it's so the key to the Dodgers is winning that first game, and then I think they have just enough pitching to and with their superior lineup to get through that series, and then that would put them against the Braves, and we saw how that series went last year. It'd probably be the same, go back and forth. The pitching is about equal. Again, the Dodgers have the better lineup, and I think I would pick the Dodgers in 7 in that series, leading against the Astros, a repeat of 2017. We know what happened in 2017, and we know why. That's not going to be the case this time. And I think the Dodgers clearly have the better lineup than the Astros. The Astros pitching is probably, considering where the Dodgers pitching is now, we're not sure of Tony Gonsolin. At least we're not sure of how many innings he can go. Same thing with Dustin May. They might piggyback both of them, clearly the Dodger lineup is the best in baseball, and that's going to be an advantage I think the only series that where you're scared of is against the Mets because of Scherzer and DeGrom, and even Bassett is a pretty good pitcher. So I personally, I feel if the Dodgers get past the get past the Mets, then they're gonna have a good shot to win the World Series. And that's my thoughts. Hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time.